In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
We're waiting.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio, 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. Got a show for you that might make you think a little bit today. As yesterday, we, of course, tipped our hat to the Georgia Bulldogs for winning the national title. Today, a little bit different of a show. Yes, we still recognize hardware, but I hold in my hands the projections for next season, where some folks are already talking about what's going to happen for next year. But before we do that and we get into those, the last AP poll of the season was released. What was it, yesterday? There you go with that. So I thought we'd look at some of the schools from around the country and how they did as far as their schedule goes. Now, there are going to be people that are going to be upset with what I'm going to tell them today, but what I'm going to give you is absolute facts. Now, you're going to go home after you hear this, and you're going to be like, well, Rob said my team didn't play a good schedule, and you didn't, if you feel that way. But we're going to look through some schedules today. I pulled some of them, and I'm going to tell you who, in my opinion, had the toughest schedule in the country based on the amount of ranked teams that they played. That's a big deal. Let's start in the Big Ten. Michigan, these are regular season games. Make sure that we put that out there. Your 12 regular season games, they played 3 top 25 teams. Michigan State, Iowa, and Ohio State. So basically, a quarter of their schedule was, I think that's the right term. Actually, no, it's not. 3 of their 12 were against teams that finished in the top 25. Then you've got, let's go to the Big 12. Baylor played Oklahoma State. They played BYU and Oklahoma. So 3 top 25 matchups for Baylor. Let's go to the SEC West. Ole Miss played 2 top 25 teams this season. These are the top 25 teams that finished ranked at the end of the year. They finished with Alabama and Arkansas. Let's look at the SEC East. Why don't we start with Mizzou? 3 top 25 wins for Mizzou, or top 25 games for Mizzou, Kentucky, UGA, and Arkansas. You're defending, reigning, what is it Paul Heyman says on SmackDown? Defending, undisputed national champion, the Georgia Bulldogs. Their 3 top 25 top 25 games, all of which they won, by the way. Clemson, Arkansas, and Kentucky. These are all regular season games. Vanderbilt played Georgia and Ole Miss. South Carolina played Clemson, Georgia, and Kentucky. Mizzou, as I said, they've got Kentucky, Georgia, and Arkansas. Tennessee gets the crown, ladies and gentlemen. Their regular season schedule, as far as toughness, I don't think can be matched. They played the ACC champion Pitt. They played the SEC West champion Alabama. They played the national champion Georgia. They played Kentucky, who finished second in the SEC East. And they played Ole Miss, who also finished second in the SEC West. Tennessee had played the most top 25 teams across the Power 5. And in my opinion, had the toughest schedule of the year. Clemson, by the way, finished with 4 top 25 teams. They had Georgia, NC State, Pitt, and Wake. The Tennessee schedule, we can goof about the Vols and the Happy Meals and everything else, but at the end of the season, after the bread was baked, the pie was done, you're not going to tell me that Tennessee didn't play the toughest schedule in the country. Now, the rest of the SEC East You all got outplayed as far as your schedule goes by Clemson and by several other teams. Some of the SEC folks, Vanderbilt played 2 ranked teams on the season. Now, these are undisputed numbers. Now, you can call and yell at me and say, oh, but this, but that, but anything else. All of this crap that we have at the beginning of the season where, oh, this team's going to be this team's going to be great. Hello, Miami, top 10 team. Where'd Miami finish? Texas A&M. Where'd they finish? They were a top 15 team. They finished unranked in the AP top 25. Now, there were some coaches that gave Jimbo Fisher a little belly rub there and had him at 25th in the coaches poll. But in reality, other than the Alabama win, did Texas A&M impress you at all this year? You need to be more respectful of what Josh Heupel done at Tennessee, because he had a hell of a lot less talent and played a tougher schedule and still managed to get his team to a bowl game. When you step back and you look at it from the perspective of, oh my goodness, I don't have to bow down to a conference. I can just look at it with actual numbers. It's kind of an awakening thing. And I challenge you to do that. Because it'll make you a better football fan. And you'll appreciate things just a little bit more. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Now, let's make sure that we put this out there, too. I am not knocking what Georgia did. I'm not knocking what Alabama did. It comes back to this. As far as their conference schedule goes, they have nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with the 8 games they've got on their conference schedule. Not one lick. Now, they do have something with the other games in their conference schedule. Now, I talked about Tennessee, but in reality, did Tennessee think that they were going to be playing the ACC champion in Pitt? No. They didn't think that. It's tough to schedule this stuff that far out. It really, really is. And I say this because I want you to put this in the time capsule. We're going to revisit this in June and July when we're all sweating and we're all talking about, man, we can't wait till those first games, the first week of September. Remember this. Remember what I told you. Tennessee played the toughest schedule, not taking anything away from those other teams, but you don't have any real control over a lot of what your schedule does. Pitt being on Tennessee's schedule made their schedule a lot tougher. Kentucky having the run that they did made their schedule a lot tougher. It really did. So with that, we'll take your calls on that at 803-978-1832. People were upset on Twitter yesterday when I put some of this stuff out there. Oh my goodness, you can't be serious. The SEC did this and that, and the Big Ten did this and that. No. I'm going by what happened and how they were ranked at the end of the season. Now, if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry. Let's go to the phones. 803-978-1832. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon. That's an automated number calling up here. We'll take your calls at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. If I remember correctly, there were teams in that top 25 at the beginning of the season that didn't need to be there. There you go with that. Now, I'm not saying that the teams that they played, they may have lost all those games. In fact, I think Tennessee lost every one of those games. But when you play a tough schedule, you're going to have some losses. Brock with a good comment there. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's go to the phones. And welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon. Hello.
Hey, Rob. This is the Biscuit.
Hi, Biscuit.
What's going on? It's been a while. I was dealing with some health issues with my mom over the break, so that's why I haven't been calling in lately.
God bless your mom, sir. I hope she's doing better.
No, I won't get into that subject now.
Well, I apologize. I honestly didn't know. I wasn't being disrespectful, but yeah, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. So yeah, go ahead.
I know you weren't. It's an odd topic to bring up on the show, but anyway, you were just talking about schedules, and that was an interesting perspective to take on the comparison between Texas A&M and Tennessee, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, Tennessee, as far as their schedule is concerned and everything, I mean, they overachieved compared to what A&M does. A&M
Right.
had that great win over Alabama, and that was terrific. But down 8-4 with $100 million coach. Now they have an amazing recruiting class coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so hopefully, well, not hopefully, I don't care. I don't want A&M to win. I don't care. But for them, hopefully they can improve it. But I don't know if you saw on SEC Shorts, did you see that Hope has left Georgia and gone to Texas A&M now?
That's funny. I haven't watched that yet. But look, and I'm not trying to rip a conference or whatever. I'm just saying at the end of the season, it's great to look back at how these teams are looked at and how you played against them and how you finished. That tells you more about the season you played than anything else as far as your regular season goes. The thing that got me, though...
And people were ripping on Georgia. People were ripping on Georgia at the beginning of the season for playing a close game to Clemson. Clemson finished 14th.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not a quality win anymore? Is that not a reasonable win? I don't know what is. But
you're exactly
I don't know
right.
if you've looked at this. Have you seen Georgia's future schedule, like who they're playing out of conference in the next couple of years?
I know that they've got
I
know they've got Notre Dame on the schedule. I can't remember the rest of it though.
Now, of course, it changed. Now there's some junk on there. Don't get me wrong. We play 4 games, so we open with Oregon next year. Okay, the year after that, we travel to Oklahoma. Then we play Clemson again in Atlanta. Then the following year, in 2025, we have at UCLA. Then the following year, we have at Louisville. I mean, which isn't great. At Louisville and UCLA. And don't forget, they play Georgia Tech. So I know Georgia Tech right now.
I get that. But one thing that I like about what Georgia's doing is they're not doing – I don't like the neutral site games. I think that they're starting to schedule games where they go home and home. And a lot of teams are doing that. But we got to give the Bulldogs credit because they were one of the first in the SEC behind A&M doesn't. I know Auburn does it. But as far as SEC East teams – doing a home and home with a non-traditional rival opponent, Georgia's kind of leading the way on that. So respect to them for that.
Well, I mean, and even down the now again, this is down the road and things change because like Ohio State canceled a home and away with Georgia that we were supposed to have in 2019 and 2020.
Right.
In 2028, they play Texas and Florida State. In 2029, they play Texas and at Clemson. In 2030, they play Clemson and Ohio State.
In the same season?
Yes, these are the same. 2030 is Clemson and Ohio State. The following year, they go to Ohio State and they play at home against Oklahoma.
But I think a lot of that's going to be
out of conference.
I think a lot of that's going to be to do when the college football playoff changes, and you're going to have some quality non-conference opponents to possibly work your way into the top 8 if it goes to 8. That may be what they're thinking ahead of time.
Now, granted, a lot of times there's a lot of like this is 10 years down the road, so you're talking about like a lot of moving and shaking and stuff still till then. So exactly. I don't know if it'll all playing out. Teams cancel stuff and all that stuff, but I just thought it was amazing. They're scheduling out of conference 2 top 10 teams legitimately. Who knows what they'll be in 8 years or whatever? But
exactly,
but still.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I think that I like the idea of you should be able to schedule those 4 games a little bit closer instead of 10 years out. Let's do it 2 years out. I mean, things like that. I think that would make a lot more sense. They won't do that, but that's something I think that
they have to come up with some way. They have to come up with some way to require teams to get like at least 2 Power 5 teams below Florida. I mean, it's ridiculous. You see Florida, they'll play Florida State. Now, when Florida State was awesome, it was okay, but 3 just directional schools they play all the time.
Well,
I mean, it's weak.
Not to rip Florida, but why not? Their last non-conference game that was played out of state in the regular season was 1991. Their last win out of conference in the regular season away from home out of the state was in 1989. Florida has lived on directional schools in state or teams coming down there to play in the swamp, and that's not up for debate either. They lean so much on the fact that they play Georgia every year, and that's the best part of their schedule. And they should be ashamed of that.
And I've seen Georgia, Bama, I've seen Tennessee, who else? LSU, will occasionally, they're up and down, but they'll occasionally go out and really play some decent teams outside. And it doesn't have to be Oklahoma and Ohio State and Clemson, but if you'll at least just go out and play a mid-level, a Baylor, go on the road and play at Indiana. Do something.
Yeah.
Do something that's like reasonable.
Yeah,
You know?
just to strengthen that schedule up a little bit. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. And we pick at Florida, but hey, they're the ones that schedule their stuff that way. And do better, Florida. Do better. There's a reason they avoided UCF, by the way. They didn't want anything to do with UCF because I could think of a couple of UCF teams. Yeah, I could think of a couple of UCF teams that would mop the floor with them. So,
well, in a lot of times they're competing with recruits. They're competing with UCF for recruits, and if you're playing them, that's actually helping UCF recruiting wise, also. So,
yeah, good point.
Yeah, and they're always been the staunch ones that don't want any other teams from Florida joining the SEC. They've been opposed to Florida State joining the SEC before too. So they're the ones who always vote that down.
Yeah. Hey, good stuff, Biscuit. I appreciate the conversation today.
Yeah, good talk.
Thanks, man.
See you later.
All right, so we're taking your calls on that, and with the scheduling stuff, this is not a rip on a conference. This is just a look at some of the teams that are out there. And you know what? A lot of it's like when you schedule, a lot of it's like blackjack. It really is. Because a lot of your non-conference games, you don't know how great they're going to be. Think about it from that perspective. Let's use the Palmetto State game as a barometer here. Clemson or South Carolina could look at those games, could go into those games playing a top 25 team. That's just the way that it is. Back when South Carolina had their great run where they were just handing it to Clemson, there were some top 25 matchups there. Two of the top 20 teams in the country playing each other at the end of the season, the day after Thanksgiving. No, it's not the Iron Bowl, but it's still a big matchup on the college football front. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some scheduling stuff, and we've got a look ahead. We'll get into that and a lot more in just a moment. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. I did see all those players, man. That's a big deal for South Carolina. You think Saban's done? Okay. Yeah, I don't think Saban's done. Yeah, I Saban still looks like a good I mean, he still looks like he could still do it. I mean, he really does. In men's basketball there, Blake, South Carolina has talent. Now I know watching them play Tennessee last night, they got mouth pumped. But on the other hand, I just don't know. I mean, South Carolina went to Coastal and lost. I mean, Clemson got a win over South Carolina. They had a COVID-filled roster, so there's that. I don't know. I think with Brad Brownell, I think that he's a good guy, and I think he cares. But in my opinion, they have at least a 4 to 5 minute spurt every game where they can't score a basket. So they have some serious issues. I think you Georgia fans, I think that we could get your best athletes from the Georgia football team, and I think they could beat the Georgia basketball team right now. That's how back end your basketball program is right now. I mean, I don't know how they fixed it. I mean, Smart's proven you can get guys to come there to play, so you should be able to get some basketball players, right? I honestly think if I got your 5 best athletes and a couple of reserves from your football team, and we didn't have refs and anything else, I mean, I'm just saying, just a straight up game, I think that they would probably win. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Some discussion from some folks online talking a little hoops. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Also, don't forget, we've got a former All-Pro linebacker is going to be in here with us on Friday, Mr. Levon Kirkland. Folks, that Levon actually can go through the gamut because he's coached in college, so he understands recruiting and everything else. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the college football season that was and the NFL this season. So all of that we'll have for you on Friday with Levon Kirkland joining us in studio. Looking forward to that. All right, so 247 Sports put out their way too early poll for 2022. And I tell you what, I think that when we look back at this, and this is going on the bookcase of accountability as well, in addition to what I gave you earlier. Now, folks, when I put this stuff out about the top 25 teams that you played, I don't understand what the argument is about that. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, that's how your schedule shook out. Please don't come at me with, well, but do you think of these two teams? No, I'm telling you who you played, and that's it. I don't get the silliness with that. Anyway, you're way too early top 25 from 247 Sports. We'll blow through some of these really quick here, and then we'll get into some other stuff. You've got Miami at number 25. Okay. What has Miami done that makes you think that they could be a top 25 team other than hire Mario Cristobal? Now, I'm saying this now, and see, here's the thing. The bookcase of accountability is to my right, but we have an audio bookcase of accountability for every dumb thing that I say on this show. It's called the podcast. You can listen whenever you want. Check out the dumbness of the dumb things that I say and some of our great callers who say some silly things too, including Mr. Hollywood, who was 1-14 with his picks against the Georgia Bulldogs this year. So go and find that. All of that's on the podcast page and Fox Sports Radio 1400. However you get your favorite podcast, it's all right there for you. All right, so Miami at 25, I'm not buying, but okay. Tennessee is at number 24. You know, I can kind of get into that because Hendon Hooker's going to be back, and Tennessee's going to have a pretty good recruiting class. 24 seems about right. Okay. 23, Southern Cal. I think they're banking too much on Lincoln Riley going there. He may go there and be the guy that can give them a renaissance back to the days of course, with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and all those guys. I don't know about that one. The Houston Cougars at 22. They do have Clayton Tune coming back as their quarterback. I think that's fair to think that mid-range to mid-major. I'm using basketball terms there. But G5 team, I think that's very solid. They've also got Penn State and Kentucky tied at 20th. You know, Kentucky coming back next season, they lose Wan'Dale Robinson and Chris Rodriguez. I think that's a pretty tough thing to overcome. But still, Will Levis is returning after that 10-win season. And you know what? It's the first time Kentucky has, in my opinion, in the past, 10 years, basically, they've got a pretty decent quarterback. You know, he's not going to go out there and lose games for you in Will Levis. Penn State at 20. Okay, we can kind of get into that. Number 19, the Texas Longhorns. The problem that I have with Texas being at number 19 is that they're at 19 because Quinn Ewers transferred there, and they think that their head coach Sarkisian can get together with this guy and can put together a good offense for Texas. Look, we heard some of the stuff that was said on the bus by the coaches about some of the players that were there. They're going to have an influx of talent to get guys there to get rid of the Tom Herman stench. Just saying. Interesting way of looking at it. But that's why they have Texas at 19. 18 is NC State. They say they could challenge for 10 wins in 2022 with Devin Leary returning at quarterback. All conference candidates on the other side. They lose their best blocker. Dave Doran's building a solid, interesting program there. You can say that they're going to be one of the tougher outs for Clemson in the Atlantic. And folks are asking about they're talking about preseason polls being a joke. Yeah, I give you that, but that's kind of why we're going over this. Just because I think it's interesting to look at how people think about this. All right, so Arkansas is at 17. There are several folks that think Arkansas is pretty good. Sam Pittman's doing something down there. You got to give him that. 16 is Iowa. Okay. Iowa every year, they kind of underachieve, in my opinion. They're always a top 15 team and end up 22. They end up losing the game or two they shouldn't. Oklahoma State with the mullet. They had a 12-win season this year. I don't think they're going to replicate that next year, but 15 sounds about right. It's hard for me to put BYU on any poll because they're so all over the place, but they're at 14. Oregon's at 13. Will Dan Lanning be able to go to Oregon and get the job done there? We'll see. We'll see on that. It's a good job for him. Brandon asked if the Gamecocks are ranked in one of the early polls. I think they're ranked in one of the ESPN polls. I may pull that up and we may look at that later on, but this one is the one I pulled because I use 247 Sports for a lot of stuff, and I don't know. The ESPN stuff's kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. Not that I'm mocking the Gamecocks at being 25th, because they may end up being there. At this juncture, we don't know. They've got Oklahoma at 12. I think Oklahoma next season, and file this on the bookcase of accountability, they've had a lot of guys transfer out, and you're going from one type of coach who is a guy that is big on offense and on all of that creativity and things like that into a more disciplined defensive coach. I think they're going to be completely different next year, and I think they're going to be have a season of adjustment under Brent Venables. I think they go 8-4 next season, maybe 7-5. Wake Forest is at 11. I don't agree with the Deeks being that high, but I do think they are going to be a good football team. And Dave Clawson, he just loves Wake Forest because he could go anywhere else and coach. At 10, they've got the Baylor Bears. I like what their coach has put together out there, but they managed to keep him. Dave Aranda. There we go. And so I think he may end up being the best team in the Big 12 next season. Michigan State at 9. I think they're overcompensating, putting Michigan State at 9 after Michigan State was unranked and finished, 12th in the polls? So there's that. 8 is Utah. Okay. All I can say with that is okay. Michigan's at 7. Is Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL? We'll see. We shall see. They've got Clemson at 6. I think that might be a little bit high. I think Clemson should be at about 10. Simply because everyone's talking about, oh, wow, this guy, Klubnik's coming in. Yeah, everyone wants to hang DJ Uiagalelei out to dry. We don't know what we're going to get with him yet. But we also can't just assume, because Klubnik has been called the Trevor Lawrence of Texas by one report, that he's going to come in and do what Trevor Lawrence did his freshman year. As we move farther and farther along, we'll look back at that freshman year and think, wow, that was awesome. But the reality is that I think Clemson's still got answers or still got questions at quarterback. I think Jordan McFadden returning is going to be a big deal for them. Clemson loses the majority of their secondary. There's that. The back end of that defense is not going to be as legit. Now, I do think the defensive line is going to be outstanding with Brzee and those guys. They're going to be fine. The back end is not going to be as good. Notre Dame at 5. It's every year Notre Dame's in the top 10. They finish in the top 10, so I don't know where to put the Irish, to be completely honest. Here we go. Texas A&M at number 4. You know what? Georgia fans, I gave you guys a lot of grief about Kirby Smart not getting it done and things like that. Jimbo Fisher now takes that has to wear that dog collar now. Until he can finish at a consistent level in the top 5, stop it. I don't want to hear about it. Win, sir. Win at Texas A&M. I was looking at their roster. They had a top 10 roster. They finished unranked this year. Unranked. Go home with that. They better be lucky they didn't get into that bowl game with Wake Forest, because if they would have went in there half carrying, Wake Forest would have rolled them. Absolutely rolled them. Number 3, they've got the defending national champion, the Georgia Bulldogs. Their write-up says Georgia was ranked as high as number 2 on their balance and as low as number 3. We shall see. They've got Ohio State ranked above them at 2 and Alabama at 1. Got some comments I'm going to read from some folks over here. Some of them are actually well thought out. I'm proud of you, chat room. Very proud of you. Quick break so I don't fall behind. We'll take your calls, 803-978-1832, when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. What? Oh, I'm looking. They've got Alabama winning it, according to 247 Sports. So there's that. Look, Alabama, when you look at it from this perspective, they've got the Heisman Trophy winner coming back and Will Anderson coming back. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I have to highlight Biscuit's comment here. Teams that claim national titles that don't have them, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting in my eyes. Alabama claims a title that they lost like 3 games. Because, and I'm not exaggerating, there was a paper called the Dixie Independent or something like that. It was some whacked out organization that they made up, claimed them as the national title. And they took it, and you go down to Alabama and look around their stuff, and they still claim that national title. With all the national titles they've got, they could delete that and no one would know the difference. Everyone from that team's dead anyway. Yeah. Look, I hold the AP poll to a higher standard because it's writers from across the country vote in it. So it's balanced in a way. It really is. The final rankings, the preseason rankings are garbage. Garbage. My watch keeps telling me, here's what I found. I guess I keep poking it with my wrist there. Hold on. Hey, what's your first name? All right, man, hold on. We'll get right to you. Phone lines are jam-packed. Let's get out to them here on the rundown. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams gel with all the transfers. You mentioned Miami. It seems Mark Cristobal is going to have a ton of transfers, and are they going to gel fast or?
Yeah, but Miami had the same thing before. I mean, remember De'Aaron King was a Houston quarterback. I mean, they had guys transfer in. Once again, let's give Kirby Smart some credit. Don't get shocked. He took a guy he took a flyer on Darion Kendrick, who, let's not forget, last summer was sitting in a car with drugs and a gun asleep and got arrested for it. And he was crowned a national champion 2 nights ago. So,
Kirby Smart didn't care about that. But I'm talking about.
Saying, these. He was able to take that guy and get his head right and get him on the field. And there was nothing about Darion Kendrick you've heard except for the fact that he's been a shutdown corner.
Right.
That's it.
But we're talking about one guy. Mario Cristobal's going to have guys. And I just don't think these teams are going to gel as fast as people think they are. Like, USC, I think they know that they're going to get the transfer from Oklahoma. That's why their 5-star just hit the transfer portal. But I just don't see them gelling that quick. I mean, Lincoln Riley took over a program that was already a top 10 program. Now, what is he going to do when his team's not a top 10 program? How is he going to build that team?
Yep.
I mean, I just don't want college football to get like college basketball. When we had a starter for our team, the Clemson Tigers, transfer to another school to be a starter at a lower level. I mean, I just don't want to see football become that, to where we look at our team, we have no idea the players that we have on the field.
Yeah. Continuity is important. You're right about that. You're absolutely right about that, sir.
I mean, and you see Alabama, they're very selective. It's one player is 2 players. It's not 8 or 9 or 10 guys. It's really, they're selective, and they can be, where would Alabama have been if they didn't get that transfer from Ohio State this year?
It's true.
Because the rest of their wide receivers didn't look very good in that championship game after he went down. But preseason top 25s. I don't really look at that.
I brought these up because it's kind of interesting to see what some writers are thinking about the teams heading into next season. But the reality is a lot of these guys could transfer out. We don't know.
Yeah, but you don't see Coastal Carolina in there, and they've lost how many? 2 or 3 games last 2 years?
Yeah, Coastal Carolina though. I still think there's a set of folks that look at them playing in the Sun Belt, and they don't think that a lot. And let's be honest, there's 2 or 3 good teams in the Sun Belt, but the rest of them are kind of flat. And I think that's kind of the way people look at their schedules. So,
where was Cincinnati in your top 25?
It's not my top 25. It's
not yours, but the one that you were using.
It's 247 Sports. Hold on.
Yeah, 247.
Let's see here. Cincinnati. I gotta look. Hold on. I'm trying to find it. But let's see here. Michigan State, Utah, Baylor, Wolfpack, Iowa, Oklahoma, Oregon. I don't think so. I don't. They were not on there. They were not on here. Yep.
I mean, and how can they not be on there? I mean, they have a coach that has been there for a while recruiting that program. And they're going to say,
well, a lot of their guys are gone. They were a senior laden team, so that's probably part of it.
But he's been there, and he's been there recruiting, and he can coach. He's proven he can coach.
And we'll see how that works.
You got other guys in there that I don't think are proven, like South Carolina 25. I mean, I don't think Shane Beaver's proven.
Well, South Carolina didn't make this poll; they made the ESPN poll. But I get what you're saying. But yeah, once again, it's kind of a shot in the dark. But I wanted to bring this out today and put it on the bookcase of accountability so we could look at it when the first set of polls come out, because I think these rankings will be different than the first set we get after spring practice and the set we get once summer ball starts.
Yeah. And on Jim Harbaugh. I think if he gets a pro offer, he's gone.
I think he likes the idea of control, and he doesn't have that in college because the kid could walk in and be like, "I'm done. See you later."
I'm done. Yeah. I think we still haven't seen the coaching carousel stop yet.
So, all right, buddy. I appreciate you calling, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back out to the phones. One more call before we go to break. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Big Brother Ross here. I just wanted to clue you in on some information here. The last time Kentucky won the national championship was 1950. All right, 1950. Do you know what the number one song in 1950 was?
I don't know. What is it?
Good Night Irene. Now, one of our major boosters has passed away. And
sorry to hear
the young
that.
lady that stepped in for that individual that got voted in, and her name is Irene. She was born in 1950. I think that, and this is the first time I've been watching Kentucky since mid-70s. First time Vegas has ever even given them a shot. We're like plus 10,000, to win the national championship. But if we could get Hollywood to call in and say Kentucky will not win the national championship, and with all these other signs pointing, I don't know if you're superstitious, but I think Kentucky has got a good shot coming up in 2023. I've got a feeling about this. Rodriguez is coming back. We got a pretty easy schedule, and I don't know. I'll get off here and listen to your thoughts. Big Barney Ross, I'm out. Thank you, sir. I think that winning a national title for Kentucky next year is far-fetched. Far-fetched. Just saying. Let's get one more call before we get a break. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Safe to say, Kentucky will not win a national championship. And you know it, I know it, and everybody else know it.
There you go. They needed your approval, man. You're the
Hey, that's one thing I get right for sure.
You're going to get that one right. Okay. Fair enough,
No
sir.
doubt.
No doubt. Thank you, Hollywood. I mean, Hollywood calls and Big Barney Ross calls and says, "Hey, we need Hollywood on our team to help us with Kentucky." His record is outstanding against Georgia this year. 1-14. God bless you, Hollywood. He kept look, Hollywood is the Rocky of this show, but a Rocky that loses. He got kicked in the face every single week and still got up and still kept moving. I'm going to start playing the Rocky theme when Hollywood calls. I'm dead serious. More of the rundown when we come back. Final break of the program. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Never fails with that guy, man. Never fails. Yeah, Tennessee, Biscuit's got a good point. Losing record over the past 11 years. They had a conference season. They didn't win a game. So South Carolina, I think South Carolina's record is much better in the SEC than that. That's why I laugh when so there's that. Oh, it's only 5 games better than Vandy. Holy crap, Biscuit. That's funny. Hilarious. Edge asked if I'm ready for the snow and ice. I don't think we're going to get anything, to be honest. Really don't. I tell you what I did do. We do have some wood. So we're gonna have a fire. I know that. And the wife is making soup on Sunday. So we're gonna get all of our housework done on Saturday, and we ain't doing nothing on Sunday. We ain't going nowhere. I don't want to go anywhere with people that don't know how to drive in this stuff anyway. When I was stationed in Iowa, I bought a snow car because people were just running into cars all the time. So I had my nice car and a snow car. That's the truth. Yeah, the wife's making some I think, I don't know, she's making some sort of soup. God bless y'all this weekend, man, with having to deal with all that nonsense. Stay home if you can. My goodness. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Shout out to Brody, who just brought in, like, we had like our first, he went into an office, somebody doesn't work here anymore, and got like our first set of glossies that we had, where they took pictures of us for the radio station or whatever. I'm showing it now. Look at this to the folks that are in the chat room. It's my first radio station glossy. I look like a buffoon. Anyway, there's that. I may post that later on Twitter. At Rob Sounds Good. Anyway, so we were talking about Kentucky there for just a second. Kentucky, their schedule next season is interesting. Kentucky plays Miami at home, at Florida, Youngstown State, NIU, and and then they go to Ole Miss. South Carolina's at home, Mississippi State's at home, off week. Then they go to Tennessee, to Missouri, Vanderbilt's at home, Georgia's at home, Louisville's at home. So Kentucky's schedule, their tough games are at home with Georgia, and they have to go on the road to Tennessee. Their schedule is not that far out, to be honest. I don't want to say I agree with Hollywood, but I would be kind of shocked. I would if they won the national title. They're not exactly I don't think they got enough, to be honest with you. 803-978-1832. There may be some snow rolling in here this weekend. I don't know. I'm not a weatherman. Someone asked, do you think we'll get any snow here in Columbia? I doubt it. I checked out like the weather forecast from the Weather Channel. Imagine that. It says on Sunday, it's changed so much. So what it says now, freezing rain in the morning and rain in the afternoon, high of 39, rain and snow tapering off in the evening. Yesterday at one point, they said it was like 5 to 8 inches. If we have 5 to 8 inches of snow here in Columbia, shut the state down. Nothing is going to happen. It'll be a mess, to be honest. All right, so don't forget, we just remember, Levon Kirkland joins us. We'll talk football with him on Friday. Looking forward to that. But according to this, and I wanted to read this, what they said about Alabama as your national champion, but I can't find it. I've lost my notes here. Basically, they talk about the fact that Alabama has, in addition to, why is it done this way? Okay. Nope. That's not it either. I'm losing track of my notes, but Alabama's the runaway favorite as the team that everyone loves for next season. So I'm already calling it now. I'm not buying Texas A&M at 4. They'll finish below 4th. Watch. Dead serious on that. Man, Tennessee fans taking a beating in the chat room today. My goodness. Biscuit posted something, said they're 35 and 65, I think it was, since like 2000 or 2010 or whatever in the SEC. That is not very good. He does agree with what I said about Texas A&M. I don't like they've got them finishing at 4th. Nope, not going to happen. I just don't see it happening. I know that's like we're in January 12th, and I'm telling you what I think is going to happen in November. Texas A&M, I don't think it's going to work. I really don't. In fact, I don't even like. Let's look at their schedule really quickly here. They probably didn't do. Let's see here. As I look at their schedule, as I've got it up here, we know that they play Alabama. We know that they play LSU. We know all of that, but I don't know what their non-conference schedule looks like. It's probably hot dog water, but let's look at it just to be sure. Texas A&M for the upcoming season. Sam Houston, App State, Miami. So I guess they're going out of conference for one game. That's fair. Arkansas, at Mississippi State. Wait a minute. They don't play, as of right now, they don't play a game away from their stadium until the 24th of September. That's a problem. That shouldn't be that way. They're playing Arkansas in Arlington. Then they go to Mississippi State and Alabama before they're off. Then they come to South Carolina. Ole Miss at home, Florida at home, at Auburn. Let's get UMass on the schedule. What a... Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I'm talking about. How... God, it makes me so angry. So frustrating when you see that. And then they wrap the season with LSU. What a mess. All right, so we'll have plenty of time to talk about this. We're going to talk some hoops. Clemson plays tonight, by the way, at Notre Dame. 7 o'clock, Tigers and the Fighting Irish. Both of those teams are looked at as on the fringe. Clemson's was in Lenardi's first 4 out as far as his bracketology. So we'll see about that. Anyway, yeah. Looking back at the top 25 stuff made me kind of silly today. All right. Tomorrow, we'll have a recap of the Clemson game and whatever else I can come up with. Thank you guys for being a part of the program. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, you guys rock. I'll see you later on. Take care. New Rob and Kale show tonight, by the way. It is Wednesday, so Jackpot and I will be doing something. See you guys later.